Hello guys, so today I'll be ranking the Resident Evil video game series from worst to best. Now, a little disclaimer so that people aren't literally coming at my house and knocking at my door trying to murder me, that I am counting most of the spin-off games, or at least all of the ones that I can actually remember. I've researched a lot. I've got on all of these that I can possibly try and find, so yeah, I hope this review or ranking is actually good because I'm probably going to get hate comments for where I place a few of these. Yeah, let's get into the ranking. So obviously, as you have seen, last place, if you've played these Resident Evil games, I think I don't even have to explain it to you, I don't think. Umbrella Corps is like a horrifically abysmal game. I will never play this game ever again in my entire life. That's how bad it is. Like, if God was here to save me, I'd be running. Like, what the hell is this movie? What the hell is this video game? Like, what the hell are all these games? But what is this? This is abysmal. Now, going to the next game, Resident Evil Resistance. I don't know if this is the first or second of two online Resident Evil games, but the online is just like in Resident Evil standpoints, it's fine. In a gameplay standpoint, it is abysmal. This game is freaking like horrible. There is like one redeeming quality that puts it over Umbrella Corps, and that is because it has better characters in it, but what are you gonna do with them? It's freaking abysmal. This game in itself is abysmal. Like, what the frick? I cannot stand this game. Please, God, this is a cry for help. So, yeah, the next game is Resident Evil Survivor from... I don't know when this game came out, because it's so freaking bad that I will never research it in my whole entire life, unless Jesus, Satan comes up on me and says if I don't research this game, I'm going to hell. So, yeah, sorry if you don't want the research, but this game is freaking horrible. I'm never playing it ever again. This is one of the only ones I actually couldn't play through the whole story of. Just to let any of you know that think this movie or game might be really good, or you might want to give it a try, please, I'm giving you a taste. Do not play this game if you're thinking about having a good time. This game will ruin your day, ruin your night, ruin your month, ruin your year, ruin your life, and maybe ruin your whole entire spirit. Because this game is freaking trash. Never play it ever. Please, God, this is a cry for help. Then next we go to... Wow, wonderful. We go from Resident Evil Survivor to Resident Evil Survivor number 2. Now, just to let you guys know, this game, just because it's one bit higher doesn't mean that it's not fucking abysmal. This game is still freaking atrocious. Do not ever play this game if you're looking for a good experience. The only thing that puts this game over the original Survivor is that when you play this one, you actually have a chance to redeem your soul. Now, redeeming your soul is not really a big thing with all these games because if really there's supposed to be horror movies that take your soul, horror games. Sorry, I'm gonna keep saying movies multiple times. Now, if you want to have a fun time with this series, don't play these spin-offs. Just don't play any of them till I get to the good ones, obviously. And if you're thinking of playing this game, I just want to let you know that it's only on a couple of consoles just because of how freaking abysmal it is. Please never play this. God, this is a cry for help. Next, we have Resident Evil Reverse. Only has a beta. That's how fucking bad this game is. So, yeah, this game... to be honest, I think we're getting into the so bad it's fun category. There's only about 2 of these because they're really bad, but they're kind of like fun to play. So yeah, this game is really bad, and I think the game was so bad that they didn't even fully release it. That's how bad it was. There was only a beta, and the beta is freaking really bad. Now, it is fun to play if you have a specific amount of friends in a specific lobby with specific characters playing. Anything else is freaking trash. If you think you're gonna have a fun multiplayer online experience, nope, that's out of the water. If you think you're gonna have a fun Resident Evil experience, nope, that's out of the water. If you think you're gonna have a fun gaming experience in general, nope, that's out of the water. Now, just never play this game if you want your day to not be ruined. Because if you want your day to be ruined, play this game. I'm lucky to show you. You're gonna go to hell. Yeah. Any questions watching this? Sorry. So, guess what we have next? Resident Evil Outbreak. A freaking really bad game that is also really fun to play. Now, just like the others, this game is the first one that might actually not ruin your day, just make it horrible. Now, whenever you're playing this game, the controls are freaking abysmal, just to let you know. Never play this game. And by the way, if you're trying to binge through the whole series, this is one of the only ones you don't need to play. Now, if I'm doing it on a gaming standpoint or Resident Evil standpoint, I actually think this game is fine compared to the other ones. It's still kind of fun to play. Now, if you're comparing it to the rest of the Resident Evil series, please do not play this. But if you're comparing it to all the spin-offs, please play this. If you're playing through the whole series, it's actually really good compared to the other spin-offs. Freaking abysmal. Next up, we have Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. Now, I do think that this game is better than the first one. It is definitely not a good Resident Evil game, but it is way better than what the abysmal piece of shart that the original Outbreak was. This game is actually really fun to play when you get into it. Now, there are lots of issues that I will address in my actual review of the game, because I'm going to make a review of all of these games. God, this is a crap. Now, I am actually forcing myself to play all these games fully and review all of them. Please help me. Now, with that being said, I give this game a 2 out of 10. The highest rating of all of them so far, considering that I haven't rated the last one. Next up, we have Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles, one of the 2 Resident Evil games released on the Nintendo Wii, which is a really good gaming console. But The Umbrella Chronicles, I think, actually works out for the Wii, unlike some of the other games. I think that the controls are actually good. The story, good enough. And also, Leon in this game, kind of cool, being my jam. But everything else is just freaking abysmal. Cause that any Wii games are like not that good if they're like Resident Evil, obviously, like the VR bro for Resident Evil 4. But this game is like it's mid. I would say it's mid. It's not bad. It's not good. Nowhere near good. But yeah. So that is the Umbrella Chronicles. Let's go. Whoa, whoa. Next up, right after the first Wii Resident Evil game, comes the second Wii Resident Evil game, The Dark Side Chronicles. I think this is slightly better than the Umbrella Chronicles, just because the story is actually a thing in this game. Even though it's really just trash, it is actually a thing. Wow, it is actually a thing. That is like the highest checkpoint I've heard of this whole entire series. Like, oh my god. That is so good. So yeah, that's Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. Another Wii game with horrible controls. Yeah. Next up on the list is one that I, for some reason, see high on people's lists. What in the world? This game is freaking abysmal, and that is Resident Evil 5. Now, whenever I played Resident Evil 5 for the first time, just a couple of weeks ago, I played it on co-op and on normal, and It was horrible. The controls are just abysmal. The characters not that good. The action scenes are not that good, and there's no literally no zombies, like no scary stuff, not an inch of scary for this game, and that is definitely bad. Now we go on to a game that I would actually consider playable and good, and that is Resident Evil Revelations. Now, this game stars Claire as the main character, and I think that Claire is actually my favorite Resident Evil character. I know a lot of people either choose Jill or Leon, but I actually choose Claire over them because I think that Claire is in the most games of the series, and I think she's really cool because she does the same flipping stuff, and especially in Code Veronica, which I'll talk about later. She is such a cool character, so I obviously choose her for this one. And yeah, Revelations itself isn't that good. It was a DS game, but for what it is on the consoles now, I think that Revelations' second character, already forgot, is not that good at all. I think that Claire is the main point on here, and also that the shooting is not that great. Because this was a DS game before it was ported to PlayStation and Xbox and PC and all that stuff. So, yeah, that will be Resident Evil Revelations with Claire. Now, coming in right after Revelations will be Revelations 2. I personally think that this game is better because the second character actually has some depth and won't spoil it. And I think that whenever you have depth in your characters, it makes them way better to play as too. And the gameplay is up to way better. This was not on the DS. It was only on the newer gen consoles at the time. So you could really get a kick out of the gameplay in this game. It was not as horrifying as the older games, I would say. Quote unquote horrifying. But it was still a pretty good game. I played episode 1, 2, 3, 4, and the raid battle, and the raids are chef's kiss. I think that they are probably one of the best parts of this game and a great addition to the franchise as a whole. So, yeah, that would be Resident Evil Revelations 2. So now this might be controversial, but this is getting into the games that I actually consider really good and fun to play. And this will be Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Now, it's really weird that this is so low to most people, but I really do not love this game. I do think that it is a really fun game to play. I don't get why people think it's the best thing they've ever played in their whole entire lives. It is pretty scary, and that girl up the attic, I think when you walk up there and you see her and she crawls down with her black eye, with her white face and her black tears, is just terrifying. And Resident Evil Biohazard or 7 or whatever people call it is the starting point for the franchise's new trilogy, and this is when the franchise turns from a FPS shooter to more of this haunted house where you see through their eyes. And this is the same in Village, which I'll talk about, which I think is way better. And Biohazard, Resident Evil 7, I give it a really high rating. It's still really fun. It's just that the other ones are way funner and way better. So that will be Resident Evil VII/7 Biohazard at number, I don't even know, there's 50 of these games, so yeah. Next up on the list, I have Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil 8, or VIII, or whatever you call it. I'll call it Village for the sake of this video. Resident Evil Village, I think, as the second part of the new trilogy of Resident Evil games that brings it into your own character's eyes and less of an FPS shooter, is that I think that this game is definitely the best because Lady Destramiscu. That's not. I know there's like Romania stuff, but I really can't pronounce it. And I think that this game is definitely better than Biohazard because Ethan Winters is way better in this game. The main villain's better, and I think that the set pieces are better in this game too, and they are really fun to play in, especially like when you see Lady Detramisk or whatever talking about Ethan Winters in front of her mirror. You're like so pumped up and seeing if she's gonna like attack you or something. That's one thing I like with Village. The scare factor is really high. So yeah, that would be Resident Evil Village or VII or 8 or 8 Village or whatever the frick you call it. So yeah, Resident Evil Village, whatever the number is. Now, this is where I said that some people would come in and send me hate comments, is that I'm reading the original Resident Evil 2 right at number 8, I think, I'm assuming. And I know that the original Resident Evil 2 is like people's favorite, it's the best one, all that stuff. For me, I never really thought Resident Evil 2 was like as perfect and no issues like everyone says. Now, don't get me wrong, this game is freaking awesome. I loved playing through Claire A, Leon B, Leon A, and Claire B. All like that. All for the stories, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to complete the whole story and get all the missions done and get like 100% on the highest rating. I'm going to max out this game soon. And by the way, I do not play this game on an actual PS2 or PS1 or whatever N64 because I don't have one. So I use these emulators. Yeah. Please don't hate me. And I think that emulators are the best for me because I don't have to buy anything and I can just play all these great games on here. And yeah. So the original Resident Evil 2, Leon introduced Leon and Claire, two of my favorite characters in the whole series. So yeah, that's one reason I really love it. And also, the RPD is really cool, but I have to say that the remake is better, and you'll see where the remake is on this ranking. So that will be Resident Evil 2, the original. So, yeah. You're probably wondering what a numbskull I am for rating Resident Evil 3, the original, over Resident Evil 2, the original. But, to be honest, I think that Resident Evil 3, the original, is a funner game to play overall. Better controls. I think it introduced Jill Valentine, which I actually could say is worse than Claire as a character, but better than Leon. And I also think that the weapons in this game, by weapons, I can also mean tyrants, are really cool. Like the weapons that Jill can use and Carlos can use are really, really cool. And another really fun thing I have to say about this game is Nemesis. I love it when you're playing in your safe room or you're like around the transport or anywhere like that, and Nemesis just pops up. There he is. He's chasing you with his rocket launcher and machine gun, I think. I'm literally going off of Resident Evil Apocalypse right now. But, yeah. Resident Evil Nemesis is definitely, I would say in my own opinion, better than Resident Evil 2, the original. And, so, yeah, I think that if you give me hate comments, I really don't care. I don't want to be one of those annoying people that are like, don't be rude. Don't be rude. Giving hate comments is rude. God hates you. So please don't be mean. Be nice. I'm not one of those freaking people, so I don't really give a shit. So send me hate comments if you want. I really don't care. Not a whole fight. So, next up on the list would be Resident Evil from 1996. Yes, the 1996 classic that for some reason was released in 1996 for the PlayStation, which I believe it should have been released on the N64, because 1996 is when it came out, but I don't know if it came out before or after the N64. But, who cares? The original Resident Evil, yeah, I think that the introduction to Stars and Jill Valentine and the T-Virus and Chris Redfield and all that stuff is really good. I think that the main setting you go to, the big mansion, I think that is a really good way of showing off how scary these games can be. Because to be honest, I think that this is actually one of the top 3 scariest Resident Evil games to date. So, yeah, that's a really good plus sign because Resident Evil is mostly known for not being scary. Not the video games, the movies not scary, and all the spin-offs are not scary. So, yeah, so it's really good to see a scary Resident Evil game, but the remake does do it better, and you'll see where that goes. But yeah, this is the OG Resident Evil from 1996, released on the PlayStation 1. Chris Redfield, I think, was definitely a missed opportunity with this video game, because I think they did Jill Valentine supposed to be the star, no pun intended, of this game. And they definitely did more with Jill Valentine than they did with Chris Redfield. So, yeah, I like both of the characters equally, almost. Okay, scrap that. I like Jill Valentine way more, but that's fine. I do think that the OG Resident Evil is a overall fun experience on the original PlayStation. So now, coming in at freaking right above the original Resident Evil is Resident Evil HD, the remaster made for the GameCube in 2002. Now, the original Resident Evil did not look that good. To be honest, the original Resident Evil looked like dog crap. It was really, to be honest, I don't know how it was put on PlayStation. It should have had N64 graphics, because the PlayStation graphics were just not as good as the N64, and I think that if this was on the N64, that this game would be much better, but for the original, and compared to this one, this game, it just blows that original out of the water. The graphics are way better. To be honest, I don't even think we need a remake of this game, because the remaster for HD on the GameCube is just so good that it's already has great graphics, great gameplay, great characters, great voice acting, great atmosphere, and that's really all you need from a Resident Evil game. All these fanboys don't need to be whining because the original is better. If you actually paid attention, this actually is the original Resident Evil that everybody wanted. It's still the original, but better. And that is exactly what I want from a Resident Evil game. So yeah, it's scary, the atmosphere is good, the characters are good. The game overall is just a really good horror survival video game. So yeah, a lot of the checkmarks that apply for the OG apply on this one. So yeah, this game is really good. And so let's go to the next one. So, coming in, I am going to say that it is better than the original Resident Evil from 1996, is Resident Evil Code Veronica. Yes, Resident Evil Code Veronica is above the original Resident Evil game because I think that the characters in this game are way cheesier and funnier. I think that it has a mixture of more Resident Evil than most of these games. It's really, it's not a scary game, but it's an overall really fun game and overwhelming. And this is one of the hardest Resident Evil games. I'm not saying it's an actual really hard game, but overall, compared to all these, it's one of the hardest because of how you save in this game. And yeah, I think that you play as Claire and Chris, I think, in this game, but I don't know if you can choose at first or if you just go along with it as the story progresses. But there's this guy named Johnny or John, something like that you go across, and he's really, really annoying until you find out his backstory, that he was his parents were murdered or something, and he meets his dad. He just shoots him a lot. So yeah, Code Veronica, I love this game a lot. because of how crazy it is. It's just so crazy that I have so much fun with it, and it's just an overall really fun game, and I'm probably tomorrow gonna start playing this game more again. So yeah, Code Veronica. So next up on the list would be Resident Evil 6. Action, a very tiny amount of survival horror video. I don't know what the frick that was, but my door just randomly closed. Survival horror video game made in 2012 in the Resident Evil series. I see this game specifically get a lot of hate in the Resident Evil community, and I know that it's not scary. Literally, you can't say a game is bad because it's not scary. That's like going to watch. That's like going to play God of War Ragnarok, saying it's not scary and leaving a bad review. That's like going to watch Child's Play 2 and saying it was scary and giving it a bad review. That's like buying an Xbox and saying it had an X on it. That's a bad review. It's just stupid. That's not how the world works. Now, I do get this. I do get kind of why people don't like this, because they like their Resident Evil games to be survival horror action. Well, guess what? Some people like more action-oriented video games. If you didn't know, you don't have to say that, because everybody tries to agree with the fanboys. So yeah, I think that Resident Evil 6 is actually a very fun, very good game to play. The graphics are incredible compared to the last game. I think that the shooting is like probably the best out of the whole series. I think that the characters are really good. I think it has the longest campaign with multiple different characters, which is really fun to play and gives you a lot of replayability, which is worth your money. And this costs the exact same amount as all the other games. This costs the exact same amount, $20 for this game. You have 5 playable characters against a $20 game with 1 playable character, as in Resident Evil 4. So yeah, I do not get the hate. I really love Resident Evil 6. So yeah, that's Resident Evil 6 from 2012. So if you guys didn't know, Resident Evil 0 is the prequel game to the OG Resident Evil game, released the same year on the exact same platform with the exact same playstyle as the Resident Evil HD for GameCube. And this may be very controversial to put this higher than Resident Evil HD, but I think that this game, who's he again? This guy's so forgettable, I don't even remember his name. The second main character, the guy, he's a freaking trash character, like no one likes him. But Rebecca Chambers, I think, is the most underrated character in this whole series. Rebecca Chambers is the first Resident Evil main character to defeat a tyrant all on her own, and I think that she's just really cool. She's also really hot, and yeah, that makes the game better. Rebecca Chambers is really good in this game. I also think that the playstyle is kind of like Resident Evil HD, and that's a really good thing because I like it to be really scary. Yeah, this was released for the same price point as like a lot of the other Resident Evil games, for only $20. And I think this game, if you're starting the series, this is definitely the one you should start with first, because it's a prequel to all of this, to the whole entire franchise, and it's really good. So if you're gonna start with this, and I definitely recommend this game to anyone who's a casual fan or big time fan for Resident Evil. While, yes, I do understand that multiple people would put the Resident Evil 3 remake low on the list, or way lower than this, because they do not like the remake. They say it's horrible as a remake. To be honest, I think this is probably easily, since it's my number 4, one of the best survival horror video games I've ever played. Now, yes, I do get that it did edit out lots of stuff from the original Resident Evil 3, but that doesn't make it a bad game. It's still a very good video game to play as. I think Nemesis is even more menacing in this video game. He has like the machine gun and everything. He looks way scarier. And Jill Valentine looks really good in this game. She's a really good character. I think Carlos has a way bigger upgrade. He's way more of an important character than he was in the original Resident Evil 3. and Nemesis. The part where Jill's looking in the mirror, she sees like the reflection of a zombie. That is just gives me the chills to this day when I play this game still. And yeah, Resident Evil 3 Remake is definitely an underrated Resident Evil game that I see people rating really low, and I think that it is definitely one of the best in the series in terms of gameplay. So yeah, that's Resident Evil 3, the remake from 2020. Next up on the list will be the original Resident Evil 4. Now, I get that this game is a popular entry among fans, usually recalled as the best. It's also often recalled as the best video game of all time. And yeah, I do think that it almost lives up to its momentum. It is I think the characters, the gameplay, the story, the villains, everything about this game is perfect. Besides the guns. The guns in this game, the aiming and shooting is the only problem I have. And it just ruins the whole game for me. When I try and aim, I hold down to this weird... What is wrong with what they keep doing with the aiming? The aiming and shooting with L1 and square was not this weird, and you couldn't move without the gun. This would be a 10 out of 10. This would be the best. That is the only reason that I rate Resident Evil 4 this low. This is really short. Sorry for your interruption. Good job. Now, second to last on this list, coming in at number 2 will be Resident Evil 4, the newly released remake. Now, I love this game. I think that these last two are perfect video games. And I think that this is better than the original slightly because of the way better graphics, the better fighting, and the better gameplay controls. Those three make this game above the original and make it just an overall way better Resident Evil experience. I think that all the characters are still great. I think that the game is still great. The gameplay is still great. It's better. And for $60, this game is definitely worth your money. It is a retail of one of the best video games in history. And yeah, this game is definitely worth a play. If you want to play Resident Evil 4 without dealing with annoying controls, this is the one you go with. This is like the best game ever made. Well, guess what? I can take back what I just said, because I do think that Resident Evil 2 is the best Resident Evil game. The remake is the best Resident Evil game, and one of the best video games ever created overall. I freaking love this game to death. This is like one of the best video games ever. I think the controls are really good. Claire is a really good character, just like always. Leon's a really good character, too. I think he's not the best. He's better in 4, but he's still great, phenomenal in this game. I think that Mr. X is probably my second place villain, only second to Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. And when he chases you around, you freaking have a heart attack, I know. And Ada Wong is just great. The opening is great. I don't like the only thing I can complain about is that they don't have Claire A, Claire B, Leon A, Leon B, all that stuff. But who really cares? They gave you like a whole story. You don't need two perspectives. I still give this game a 99% just because of that perspective thing. It is like phenomenal. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, 99%. Like one of the best video games ever created. Now, that is my ranking for the Resident Evil video games, including the spin-offs. Hope you enjoyed, and bye.